The podcast so good it will make your dick explode.
Even if you don't have one.
Okay, hello. Welcome to episode 2, Diseases of Civilization podcast.
Hi.
Hi, guys. I'm Evan.
I'm Jeremiah.
And we're back again, hopefully this time with better audio. And in fact, I had to do, it's much simpler to get good audio than it was to get bad or mediocre audio, so that's good, I think, if all goes well. Anyway, before we begin, I just want to take a moment of silence, okay, to think about Cecil the lion.
Oh.
I just want to, everyone can just think and pray, or if you want to say anything, if you want to speak in tongues, or...
I haven't been able to sleep.
Well, I know. Every time I go to sleep,
I
just see his face, his little liony face flashing before my eyes.
His mane. Just,
yeah, and I think about that just scumbag guy. I mean, I think that guy
shit.
Yeah, he should be killed.
I agree.
Right? But we should kill people for killing predatory animals because they're nice. And yeah, I mean, what about Cecil's cubs? They're the real victims, I think, because people aren't really addressing that.
No one's talking about the cubs.
Yeah, what's going to happen with the cubs? I mean, is the mother going to get custody?
Yeah, what's going on with that?
Or some other relative? We don't know yet. Okay, I got my ear to the ground on this issue, though. I mean, I'm watching it carefully, okay? I will inform you as soon as I know. But, yeah, I mean, it's just, what can you say? Another beautiful soul gone from this world. And the scumbag who killed him is running free.
He lost his dental practice.
Out there. That's not enough,
That's not enough. We need more.
I mean, he lost in,
blood for blood.
All of his employees are probably unemployed now, but they deserve it because they worked for him.
Well, they're working for this piece of shit.
Too. Yeah, I mean, he deserves to have his address put out on the internet because he should be killed by psychotic eco-terrorists.
Yeah.
I think that's a fitting end for him. Does that seem rational to anyone?
No.
I mean, people legitimately talk this way.
Well, they openly do. On Facebook, they put these ideas out there. They're not just secret. They volunteer these ideas,
right.
and it's insane.
Well, I mean, Jimmy Kimmel was actually choked up over it. He was talking, I'm sorry, I just get choked up when I think about Cecil. Really? When you think about a fucking lion being killed, you cry. Why?
I don't think about any animal being killed unless it's my pet.
Right.
Or if I see it being killed, maybe, like, firsthand.
Yeah, if somebody described me in detail about animal torture, I mean, I wouldn't like it. And by the way, too, I mean, I don't know the facts of the case. I'm guessing most people don't who run their mouth about it, just like every other thing, especially on the internet. They hear about according to BuzzFeed, I guess I know everything now, and they go ahead and tweet about it. But I don't know the facts of the case. It sounds like somebody did some illegal shit.
Yeah.
And some immoral stuff. I don't agree with that. I'm not a big supporter of hunting. Like, of trophy hunting. I'm not like, yeah, it's the best. I have no dog in that fight.
Well, what's the worst case scenario here? Worst case scenario is this guy had this illegal hunt, and he knew it was illegal, and knew this may have been a protected animal on a protected piece of land, and did it anyway, right? It's like worst case.
Yeah.
And even then, okay, if he did something illegal and he's they can prosecute him for whatever maybe, but to kill him and demand people cry for his blood and say that he no longer should have a dental practice.
Well, it's really sickening to me. I mean, it's sickening how little humanity people seem to have towards other humans.
Yeah.
But I guess when you dehumanize someone, as we've learned in multiple wars. World War II, it's pretty easy to justify anything, essentially. So when the propaganda is out there. And I find it interesting how, for example, Mia Farrow, do you know who she is?
Yeah.
She's Woody Allen's ex-wife. And do you see what she said?
She's an actress from the 70s, right?
Yeah, she's an actress, and she's married to Woody Allen that's really what she's most well known for. And for divorcing him and accusing him of molesting their daughter.
Yeah, I know
which
that.
is what his daughter also
That's pretty much known to be a fact, right?
Well, I don't want to say
not
that.
Not fact, but it's...
I'm inclined to believe... I don't seen a reason why both her son and daughter lie about it.
It's more than just like a rumor, right?
Yeah,
it's pretty legitimate.
It's the point where his wife, his son, and his daughter both publicly hate him. I think that's pretty. That's more than just like I heard he might have done.
Yeah, right.
And they all directly accuse him of doing it. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. Although it is actually kind of relevant to what I was going to say. Anyway, so Mia Farrow, of course, is a Hollywood. I don't even want to say liberal because they're not really liberal in the classical sense, but they're whatever they believe. And she shared. She got into a bit of hot water because she shared that guy Walter Palmer. Was that his name? Walter Palmer?
I don't know.
I keep saying Wayne Palmer, but I think that was the president's brother on 24.
Okay.
So it's either Walter or Wayne. I'm pretty sure
I don't know.
Walter Palmer, whatever, the dentist guy. She shared his real address on Twitter, which is like they call doxing, like when you, I guess, publicize someone's information on the internet.
Right.
Or like put their address.
So let's think about this. What could she possibly hope would happen?
I don't know.
From doing that.
But here's the interesting thing. I don't want to say funny because it's not really funny, but are you familiar with Roman Polanski?
Yeah.
The director?
Yeah.
And do you know why he hasn't been in America for like 30 years?
I think what you told me I remember.
Yeah, well he can't because I think he was either convicted or he's supposed to be tried for raping a 13-year-old girl. Okay, in like the 70s or something. And there's a whole story. You can read online. Again, this is another thing.
There's a lot of actors and shit that vindicate him, right?
Yes, and that's the point, is that Mia Farrow is like his good friend, and she has written before, I support my friend wholeheartedly.
Okay.
And he's someone who fled justice for raping a 13-year-old child. Right. But she thinks that's okay, and killing a lion, your address should be put on the internet. Now, and the whole thing too, people keep, it's like all this reverse counter offense. When you get offended by people placing the lion above human life, they get offended too and say, well, you're saying that I can't care about two different things. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, in a situation like this, when someone is obviously a giant hypocrite, where they support pretty much, it's pretty much known that he did it. I mean, he says, I didn't force her. She says...
Well, why did he flee? I'm sorry. I mean, that doesn't mean you're guilty because you flee, but...
Right. And even if he didn't do it, he still fled from the law. That's illegal in itself.
Right.
That's just like... And why are people... I don't know if Mia Farrow specifically said this, but there's a lot of people saying Palmer should be extradited to Zimbabwe. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that would be a really fair trial anyway. Yeah, no. But I don't know what their justice system is like. But, Roman Polanski can just live his whole life in Europe and France, and he's, flying around to the Cannes Film Festival and making all these films. And by the way, he makes some pretty fucking good films, which just sucks. It's like, it's hard to... it's kind of weird to watch something that's made by...
There's nothing that says a rapist can't make good movies.
No, there's not. But But
it sucks if you know it's good. You're like, I don't want to watch this because this guy's a turd.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. There's nothing stopping him from being talented. Well, he was famous. She became his friend because she was in Rosemary's Baby. I don't know if you've seen that. No. The Pianist. He made a bunch of movies. I can't remember all of them. I don't really follow his career, but yeah. I think I don't know. And like you said, all these actors support him, and if you want to be his friend, I don't think he should be eternally damned for something he did 30 years ago, no matter how bad it was. But you can't. That doesn't mean that he's not guilty of that, and he's never been punished except I think he was in jail for maybe a day or something like that. So I don't think that allows him to get off scot-free for what he did, just because it's been so long. Oh, well, just forget about it. Just let it go already.
Well, it is. This woman looks very silly.
Yeah, and I just find it ironic that, all of these Hollywood types who, out of one corner of their mouth, a lot of them are probably going on about rape culture and, all this stuff and harassment, quote unquote. Yet they probably a lot of them support him as well and think, oh, well, it's just hypocritical. And you have the right to be hypocritical. Everyone is to some extent, but it just really annoys me.
I don't care about a lion. If it was up to me, would I wish that they all lived forever? Yeah. But, to say that you don't care about a lion is one thing, but to say that you don't care to the extent that, you think the person should be killed or have to be fired or publicly humiliated. That's really weird to me.
Yeah, I just don't understand I mean, I don't necessarily. I mean, I don't disagree at all with people caring about it or people condemning him and saying like, "Wow, this guy broke the law and was, I'm an animal lover or whatever." Okay, I just don't. For me, I just can't understand the level of passion that people have about it.
It doesn't make sense at all
in comparison to other things going on. And obviously, it's kind of interesting. We were talking about earlier how there was a new thing where a lot of black people, or I guess white people too, were getting kind of offended because they thought. They were saying, like, oh, well, all these white people care about lions so much, they don't care about black people, which is obviously not true because probably a lot of the same people who are going on about Cecil are probably a lot of the same ones who tweet all Black Lives Matter and all that stuff, and they condemn every police officer. The police officers are always wrong, and we just have a bunch of psycho cops running around and shooting people left and right.
Yeah, they're the same people.
Right, they're probably the same people, so it's kind of funny to see them sort of infighting there. I mean, that doesn't bother me at all. But again, I mean, you can care about both things. I mean, every human is capable of a lot of different simultaneous things, but I just don't understand that level of passion. It's as if, and you just don't see. I wrote this. I posted on Facebook, and my cousin responded. I mean, he's a smart guy. I take what he says seriously, and I was writing about that. And why not about war and corruption. He was like, well, we can care about more than one thing at once, and these issues have been going on for so long. I mean, maybe that's why, where it's been continuing for so long. Like, think about something like political corruption. It's almost like we all it's like a joke now, right? The NSA, hey, the NSA, did you get my phone call? It's like, but it really happened. I mean, people were illegally spying on U.S. citizens, right? And that's pretty much, as far as I know, that's been...
It's a fact.
Proven. And a lot of other...
And how do we know about shit like this? Edward Snowden. Right. And he's a criminal.
Yeah. Yeah, he's another guy who's fleeing from extradition. And then all this different stuff, I mean, like, if you look at in Clinton's regime and Bush, I mean, there's all these...
Yeah, there's a lot of very...
I mean, you can pull one thing out. Like, I was just reading this article recently about... a pharmaceutical factory that was bombed under Clinton in like Sudan,
right?
And all these people were killed because they
didn't have
medicine and everything. And it's like, oh well, I mean, mistakes will happen.
There's over 100,000 deaths, right?
Something crazy. No, I think you're talking about you might be talking about the sanctions against
Iraq,
Iran. I think
Iran.
I don't know. I forgot about it, but yeah, I think it was Iran. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and there was the famous quote where Madeleine Albright, they were talking to her and they go, well, 100,000 people died. Was it worth it? And she's like, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So that arouses really no passion. I'm not saying everyone has to be passionate about that right now. I'm just saying there's stuff like that going on pretty much all the time.
If you are going to be passionate.
Yeah, why not about something which is... I mean, I think... Is it wrong to say that a human life is more important than a lion's life? Other things being the same?
Not to me, no. Of course
Can we just... I mean, I think most people could agree on that, except for PETA.
Isn't that... Yeah, I think most people would agree. To me, that's the morally... That's the moral thing to say.
Right. I mean, all other things being equal in an ideal... Not ideal,
all animals.
In a scripted scenario where you had the choice, okay, I'm going to save a human life or a lion's life. A baby, a lion cub. You can only choose one. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hope that 100 out of 100 people would choose the baby every single time. The baby human.
That's just instinct.
But I'm just not sure after seeing the reaction to this lion thing. People are treating it like it was...
I don't know. I mean, I guess I have to wonder, though, how much of it is really sincere, though, this passion.
Yeah, that's true.
And how much of it is just them just trying to get on with the hashtag and be a part of
it's really easy to jump on Twitter and then add a lot of punctuation and whatnot to your thing, and then just come off as being really heated. And
that's just evidenced by the fact that these things these people are outraged by don't last long. They burn out so fast.
Right. Well, I think that's another flaw of the internet or social media expression is that you don't have to have any real conviction in stuff you say. It's so easy to just shit out.
Because no one's coming to you a month later,
right?
And going, well, what are you doing now?
Yeah, that, and also
you don't need to follow up on anything.
Well, and also just the fact that you don't have to tell anyone face to face. Like if I have to sit here,
oh right.
I mean, if I sat here and talked to you,
if I was the guy that killed that lion, and you were to tell me right here that I should be murdered and killed,
yeah. Or
no
not,
one's doing that.
Not even that, but just to like your friend. I mean, if we were just talking about it, let's say we both happen to be, we hate that guy and we're these supporters. I mean, or let's say I was and you didn't really know about it and I was telling you about it. Yeah. Like how much, even if I was passionate about it on the internet, how much passion could I really muster in a conversation? Right. And just go, have you heard about this? And you'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you getting so...
Yeah, right.
What? Like you would think I was so beyond the pale with my behavior but on the internet it's very easy to put that out because you can, and this has been studied as well. There was a study about on Facebook about people actually create a persona on Facebook.
Well, yeah, totally.
A very artificial persona about, for example, okay, I share a lot of stuff about Africa. I want to display how much I care about Africa, but in fact they've never done anything to actually help it. I'm not saying everyone does that, but it's been studied that there's a lot of people who create false.
It's also funny too when you think about. I know that Twitter is limited to a few characters, but Facebook posts. I know a lot of the posts and shit that people say on there are pretty. The point is to be short and quick and easy, but it's funny how when you're talking about something as important as someone's life, and you're saying this guy should be killed, you're doing it in like 3 sentences.
Right.
You know, I mean that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. How deep are you really getting into it on that? Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. It's just, I think what Twitter has done is created the opportunity for a ton of people to very conveniently jump onto bandwagons. Yeah. Which is not always a bad thing.
That's what a hashtag is.
Yeah, you don't have to really put in much effort to just be a part of that. And as we've learned, I mean, people love to be a part of something.
That's just
Everybody wants to be a part of something. Yeah. And they can't create anything on their own. So they have to find other shit that people have created so they can jump onto it and hitch onto that, you know? And it's just, it gets kind of annoying when these people, they have no original thoughts. Or a lot of people, like on my Facebook, they'll link all these articles. I mean, there's certain people, I won't mention any of their names in case they happen to see this, but certain people who link the articles from these same websites that are, of course, very biased and... Every single day, there's like 5 different ones. I mean, luckily I disabled the feed from them. Right. Yeah. But it's like what I found interesting was that they would just link it and they would never add any of their own. You know, you can add your own text.
Oh yeah.
They would never add any of their own commentary. They would just present it as like, this totally represents what I think. And then if I criticized it, they'd be like, well, I don't agree with this totally. I was just, well, then tell me that in the beginning. Like, that the burden is on you to tell me what you're trying to express. I can't read your mind and figure out.
If you link an article and all you do is link it, all I can do is assume that you agree with everything in the article.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what the fuck how you think. Why wouldn't I assume that?
It doesn't take long to type up a paragraph about your take on that article. I mean, you can link. I link things too.
Sure.
But put some kind of commentary on it if you're going to use it as a substitute for your own
expression. Or if you're not, then don't be weirded out when someone doesn't know how you feel about it. That's weird.
And call you on it. I mean, again, that's not my fault. That's yours for not being clear. So, anyway. But
and by the way, they put that shit out there. They're welcoming conversation. At least I thought.
Yeah. But 2 of these things, I was thinking recently, I mean, we may have talked about this before, but when it comes to... I think about this with Cecil... I can't believe I have to use a name. I mean, okay, I'm just going to say the line. I refuse
Cecil the line.
I refuse to treat it like... It sounds like it's a person. Like
right. Cecil. That's the idea. It humanizes the fucking animal.
Fucking lie. And if he was in this room, he would kill everyone.
We would be dead right now. But we're better than that.
No, actually, one of the articles I was reading about it, just the little... I can't remember the headline. Not the headline, but just the sort of intro said something like, yeah, the gentle... Cecil was killed.
Gentle to who?
And they said gentle protector of his cubs. Gentle? Well, maybe he was mentally broken down by being in captivity or whatever, but I don't think that if you put him in a room... Would you put your kid in the room with him?
Would you be in the room with him?
Right, yeah, would you?
Would you put anything in the room with him that you
valued?
Would want to live?
Yeah. I wouldn't put...
What would you put in there with him?
I wouldn't put my couch in there with him. Probably scratch the fucking couch out. He's a dick. I'm glad he's dead.
He's a fucking liar. He's a killing machine.
Ruin the furniture everywhere.
They're brutal creatures.
Yeah.
When they take over a new, what do they call it? Pride.
Yeah, they kill the cubs.
Yeah, when a male comes in, takes over Pride, they kill the cubs. They want to make their own.
Well, it's interesting because people were talking about that. I saw one article. They said, "What's going to happen to his cubs? They might be killed."
Here's what's going to happen.
That's called nature.
Yeah.
I mean,
Here's what's going to happen. A new male will come in.
Yeah.
They will be killed.
Right.
And then he's going to fuck the other one because she's going to immediately go in heat.
Yeah, he didn't die by so-called natural causes.
And
but...
by the way, the female lion will fuck him because. Right. And is she a bad mother now?
Yeah,
should we take the cubs because she's a bad mother?
You shouldn't slut shame her again. Right. That's shaming. Right. She's just doing what she has to do. Yeah, but I mean, if that guy hadn't killed him, you think he would have lived forever, and then this situation could never happen? No. It happens all the fucking time in nature.
Would that just expedited this process? He would eventually died.
Yeah. And really, it is natural because hunting is natural.
Yeah, it is.
Animals hunt other animals.
It is.
Yeah, he didn't have to hunt him. He didn't eat him and all that stuff. But that lion in the wild could have been killed by a number of
Humans killing
things.
Animals is natural.
Animals killing humans is natural. Because humans are animals.
At the rate that we kill them is unnatural. And the methods we use, with how easy it is. Yes, I know it's not a totally natural process. But yes, animals being killed by us is totally natural.
Right. So... Again, I don't necessarily support his whole thing, but I'm just saying stop attaching so much importance to it. But what I was going to say before is... what was I saying before? With Cecil and the Confederate flag issue, which of course was...
Well, that'll be gone if it isn't already. Not gone, but it's already, I think, dying out a little bit.
You mean the controversy over it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's already starting to lose...
Well, they won in South Carolina because the flag was removed.
Well, I agree with that, though, honestly. About the government not having... I don't
necessarily agree. I mean, just like with the lion, I really have...
I don't really give a fuck.
Okay.
But...
I have no... What I was going to say is... I have no dog in that fight, but I was thinking about... With that, too, like, why suddenly... Yeah, I mean, the Confederate flag is around since whenever... I don't know when it was created
18 whatever. Well, more before that.
Yeah, and... Well, it was probably created sometime in the 1800s, right? Before the Civil War, I'm guessing, or as the Civil War was sparking out. Whatever. Hundreds of years... over 100 years. And why suddenly, just because that guy had it in his photo, was it... But I started thinking about it, and to me, I think what it is that a lot of people, especially, social justice warriors, obviously they're very, very frustrated because the world is not the way that they want it to be.
Right.
And they demand it to be the way they want it to be.
So they're looking for some sort of victory.
Yeah, I think my theory is that a lot of people are looking for anything that they can... have a sense of accomplishment over and a sense of victory over. So they're kind of choosing these fights that aren't really that difficult. I mean, it wasn't really going out on a limb after that happened to say, hey, I think we should take the Confederate flag down. Most people were agreeing with it. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I mean, I don't care if it is taken down. I'm questioning...
Okay, it's down now. Now what?
Yeah, I'm questioning the context of it. And I'm questioning the emotion surrounding it and the sudden increase just because that guy had it in his picture and he killed people in that state.
It's stupid.
I just don't, I was just thinking about it, but I think that's why is that, so in their mind, maybe it's even subconscious. They think, okay, this guy was racist. We don't like racism. I mean, nobody who, well, except unless you are racist.
Most civilized people don't.
Nobody wants to have racism, increase or to stay around. But they realize, all right, we're not going to end racism anytime soon. It's impossible because you can't change the way that millions of people think, and you can't. And by the way, too, I find it interesting that in America, when you do travel a little bit to other countries, you realize that everyone in the world isn't like this by any stretch of the imagination. Here, we are like the most oversensitive people I've ever seen, and when it comes to some of these issues, and we're so self-shaming. It's really amazing. Like, there's racism in every single place in the world.
Yes, there is, absolutely.
Chinese people are racist against other Chinese people who look almost exactly the same as them, but they call it a different ethnicity and they're racist against them. How weird is that? Like, they don't even have the luxury of identifying them as black, and it's like...
I think it's just known now. It's just human psychology. We will find a way to not like you.
People in the north of a country are racist against ethnic groups in the south of the same country, which could be the size of a state in America. Like, people acting like we have that America has the burden to eliminate racism is pretty unreasonable.
Not just America, but more specifically white people.
Right.
It's our burden.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, well, they think that there's a burden for someone to eliminate racism, but that's just never going to happen because it's part of human nature, unfortunately. And it's not. And the problem too is that people think about it as racist, but what it really is exclusion, and it's hatred against outsiders. It doesn't happen just with race, as we've seen. It can happen with religion. I think it all comes from the same place.
It is.
It's not, race is just one element or one attribute that you can use to hate someone. Sure. I mean, look at, it can be political views, communist, or, I mean, look in China, communists persecuted non-communists and vice versa. So you don't have to be in a different race. People are always going to find something where they're going to form groups, and then they're going to exclude and hate the outside groups, which is why...
You're not what we are, we hate you.
Well, yeah, which is why I don't call myself part of any group ever.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I'm
totally dangerous. For
I'm
the
white,
individual,
but I don't, that's not my choice. I don't claim to be part of any political group, any philosophical group, because it's dangerous. Yeah, and if you research stuff about groupthink, I mean, you can fall into that without knowing you're doing it. Mm-hmm. That's the scariest thing, is your brain can work against you sometimes. So, anyway, but yeah, I think people are just looking for a victory. So, in other words, they think, okay, we can't end racism anytime soon. That's just not reasonable. But you know what we can do? But we can get that flag taken down. You know what I mean? It's like, just do something. We can't ban guns, but you know what we can do? We can jump all over this guy because he's a hunter and
the way that I felt about the whole Confederate thing was, like you said, this guy did this, killed these people, and then there was this demand to have the flag removed, and my reaction was, why? I don't get it. What is that going to do?
Yeah,
how many lives is that going to save?
Right. I mean, I see why they don't want it.
I see why, but why the
level?
Why
of
the
passion?
fervor?
Yeah. It was just weird that it got to that level. It was as if the flag was having a picture of him, like the flag. I mean, it was almost as if like the next day the government raised up a little flag and had a picture of him looking like a glorious hero. I would see that level of fervor. They'd be like, "What the fuck?"
And the reason that I would want the flag to be down from government buildings is not at all the reason that other people would want it.
Right.
Ironically, I think a lot of the people that want the flag taken down are totally cool with government having freedom of speech, which it wasn't designed to have that. It's not supposed to. I think a lot of people who want it taken down, it's just purely because it's what they don't like.
Well, that's definitely why.
I mean, that's but that's not the core of the problem to me. Is I don't want the government to have an opinion on anything.
Yeah.
Who cares what they think?
Yeah, that's true as well, especially because the opinion is made by a group of people who change all the time. Right. Yeah, I hate that when the government has to get together and they decide who they're going to honor this year and like, what should we build the statue to this guy or this guy? It's like, why are you wasting time and money doing that? Can you fix any of the number of problems that every city has instead of spending any?
Sure, they can. They just need more government.
Yeah,
just give us a little more.
Right, we need 4 more years, guys, so we can get it done. Yeah, I just I don't understand all that. So anyway, anything more on Cecil? Any more thoughts about that?
May God rest his soul.
Yes, may Mufasa rest his soul. Yeah, and I don't know. Oh, and the other point too is that a lot of people don't want to admit, which I read an article about it, and we were talking about it before, that that guy paying these large amounts of money. I mean, that's money used for conservation in Africa.
A lot of people don't realize that if something is a moneymaker in Africa, whether it be foreigners coming in to kill the animal or see the animal, whatever, those animals are probably not going anywhere. Because those Africans know that is a cash cow, and they can't let it go anywhere. So, and yes, by law in Africa, money generated from hunting and things has to go to these conservation groups. Now, I'm sure a lot of it's a lot of corruption.
Right.
I'm not saying it's totally a benevolent process, but it's almost a fact.
It's almost like if you went to a restaurant, or let's say if you went to a farm, and then you bought an apple, and then you ate it, and someone was like, "What the fuck? You're eating all the apples?"
Right.
You're like, dude, that's what this whole thing is for.
Yeah.
Like, the apples are only here because
they make money from them.
I'm paying for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, yes, he was not supposed to hunt that particular lion, but the point is, that guy, he's not right in this case. I'm not saying he is.
No, he's not.
But he has given, or he's spent a shit ton of money, probably in the past, that has gone to support all these animals. And it's not right. I mean, it's not like a natural thing. Okay, so these animals are just being farmed, basically. But, hey, I mean, if you want to keep them around, otherwise they would all be extinct.
If there was no interest in them,
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants a rhino around except to hunt for it and get its horn and shit.
Right.
You know, like, no one, you know, people there, if they're trying to have, like, a ranch or a farm or something, why would you want fucking lions running around?
Right.
I mean, you wouldn't, right?
No, you never do that.
That'd be crazy. So... yeah, there was an article about that which pointed out, and the guy had the right position. I think he called, you know, he thought that Palmer was an asshole, but he was rational enough to admit that, hey, I mean, he's given, and the funny thing is, he's done a lot more for conservation than any of you on Twitter
It's
have.
very ironic.
Yeah, most of you who
that guy has done much more for the survival of this species than these folks that are using hashtags.
I'm not saying we should honor him and
he didn't
smoke up his ass, but just have a little bit of nuance in your opinion. Stop saying he should rot in hell and you're going to kill him and he should be hung or hunted or thrown to the lions. That's just ridiculous. It's sickening attitude.
It's pathetic. It's embarrassing.
And tired of it. So.
You people are fucking douchebags.
Yeah. I think that's our motto, actually. So, yeah. So what else were we talking about? Oh, yeah.
Some article.
Yeah. I was just browsing for an article. Sorry, I have to have this thing plugged in, so I have to lean over. But it's kind of, I mean, I haven't read it yet, but I was just looking at the headline. I thought, ooh, this would be a good one to discuss. And reading the intro, and it was something you said you're not familiar with, this issue, so I wanted to bring it up. Yeah. That's why I love talking to you, because you're very smart, but you don't follow the media much at all, like social media. So there's all this shit that you haven't heard of, but like it's not because you're stupid, it's just because you haven't heard of it. Yeah, right. So when I tell you about it, I know you'll have a good reaction because it's just that you're almost like you're almost like an alien who's come down, who's very advanced, but then he's like, what is bacon? And you have to explain to him like, it's really good, and he's like, whoa, you know. So that's why I like talking about this stuff, because I follow it. I follow those social media, not really closely, but...
I didn't know what trigger warning meant.
Yeah, well, that's what this article is about, so... And thankfully, we have a trigger warning at the beginning of all of our videos, so no one can accuse us of... if you're watching this far and you are triggered, that's your own fault, buddy, because you had the warning up there. Alright, so this is from everydayfeminism.com, which is just a goldmine of...
treasure trove.
Yeah, it's a veritable treasure trove of really emotional, illogical arguments, articles with no discernible thesis.
And it seems like a vast majority of the articles are titled with 7 tips or 7 ways or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure that's Internet Marketing 101. They probably say you will increase your viewer. Yeah. You know, it's all very, very calculated, which just really doesn't really help their case at all.
Right,
for being
it doesn't make it
emotional,
seem very authentic sincere, or honest. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think most people in here are sincere in what they believe. I just disagree with it. Anyway, so this and apparently I'm not allowed to say if this person, I don't know if I can call it a person.
Okay.
Him or her, because I don't know where, I don't know what I'm just going to say it. I'm not saying that to be like dehumanizing. Only because it said it's not a man or a woman, so I don't know if I should say he or she.
Her and him, that's a male, female. What the fuck?
I mean, I don't know what you do in this situation. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you say he, because to me it looks like he looks like a man who's kind of effeminate, but he does not. If I say that, it's offensive because I'm pigeonholing him, her into. Am I supposed to say him, her? Him /
Don't
her?
Ask me.
That's really wordy to say, so I'm not doing this to be offensive. I just, I don't know. Alright, I'm just going to say him, whatever. Sam Dillon Finch is the name of this author.
Androgynous name.
Yes, quite probably intentional. I'm guessing that was done on purpose, because...
If it was Samantha, it's Sam. If it's Samuel, it's Sam.
He's not binary, man. He's quantum computing. Okay. So... The title of the article is, When You Oppose Trigger Warnings, You're Really Saying These 8 Things. And thankfully, we don't oppose trigger warnings because we have one. So we're all on board with the trigger warnings.
8 things.
All right, now, so you asked, what is a trigger warning? Well, Jeremiah, to put simply, here, I'm going to read it from this so he can...
Okay.
Well, they call it a content warning, and I will explain why in a moment, because that explanation is very funny as well. Oh, sorry, I zoomed in very largely. Okay. if you're not familiar, a content warning or trigger warning is a very simple statement at the beginning of an article, film, or comic that lets the audience know that something potentially distressing will appear in the content
discretion is advised.
they're about to consume. But I think the difference is that they're supposed to explain. They're supposed to
categorize it, like this is violent or whatever.
So just in case anyone out there, now here's this is the editor's note. Like this phenomenal article. Okay, let's tone down the.
Ooh boy, self-congratulatory, are we?
Yeah, hyperbole there. Like this phenomenal article, everyday feminism definitely believes in giving people a heads up about material that might provoke our readers' trauma. However, we use the phrase content warning instead of trigger warning. Now let's see if you can guess why. They have a reason for that. I'm going to put it to you first. I'll give you a guess. I like playing this game.
All right. So all I know is they like to use the euphemism content warning instead of trigger warning.
Wait.
Well, I can only guess is because trigger warning would make someone believe there's guns and whatever they're trying to warn people about. So that could be confusing because there really is probably a trigger warning or content warning about guns. So, yeah, that's probably why, right?
That's why.
Oh, boy, thanks for that.
It says, we use the phrase...
God damn.
And this doesn't... All right, now...
What if I'm offended by content? All content ever.
Yeah.
So then that would, that wouldn't be good for me.
One time I was conned in a tent. I was in a tent, I got conned by this guy, and I'm really traumatized by it. So when you say content, it makes me flash back to I'm like,
There are also cons and they're ex-cons, so...
Yeah, I was actually... Alright, I won't go there. Alright, so... Might provoke our readers' trauma. However, we use the phrase content warning instead of trigger warning as the word trigger relies on and evokes violent weaponry imagery. This could be...
Evokes violent weaponry imagery. God.
Okay, where was I? This could be re-traumatizing for folks who have suffered military, police, and other forms of violence.
Could it?
So while warnings... maybe they were beaten by triggers. Like, the police actually used the physical triggers.
You'd have to remove it. Because the trigger has a thing around it.
I know, I'm joking, obviously. Now, someone actually made a chain out of just a bunch of triggers and beat him with it. It could happen, I guess. There might be one guy out there who's suffered that. So, while warnings are so necessary and the point of this article are right on, we strongly encourage the term content warning instead of trigger warning. Now, can you detect the irony of that? They don't want to use the word trigger warning, but what word did they just use 4 or 5 different times?
I don't know how to pick up on it.
Trigger warning. They just said it. The title of this article is, when you oppose trigger warnings, you're really saying these 8 things.
Right. So with the content warning, you should just infer that, oh man, there might be the word trigger in here. Or something that could invoke violent weaponry
Well, I'm
imagery.
saying, but they just use it in the headline of the article.
Right, but so that must mean that their logic is that content warning should make, that should warn someone about triggers, about the word trigger.
But they don't obviously do that because they had to use the word trigger.
Of course it won't.
I don't understand. Well, this is...
If you had PTSD and you really were worried about the word trigger, right, and you saw content warning, what'd you think? Oh, shit. Trigger might be in here. No, probably not.
Yeah, you would think it was more like sexual. Like when people say content warning, that's
so stupid.
Well, it's just so funny because they don't want to use the word trigger, but they have to use the word trigger to explain it. Right. This is one of the many dangers of censoring language, and trying to ban words and to, they're not saying they're banning it, but we don't like to use that because. But you just used it. Do you not detect the irony of that?
Using trigger warning is bad. Using trigger within your article is totally fine. What the hell?
I don't know, dude. So I can't figure that out. We haven't even gotten past the headline yet.
Oh my god!
I mean, this is the level we're dealing with, and there's 8 points. By the way, I'm not a professional writer, but if I could give any piece of advice to the people on this website, it's like condense your articles.
Yeah, stop trying to bloat.
They're all so long. It's like 9 different reasons why, and then the thing why is like so specific. Like, you don't need 9 reasons. You can put it into 5.
Condense it, please.
Yeah, I mean...
Not everything has to be bloated.
Right. I'm not saying you shouldn't write the article, but can you just please be a little more concise?
Less is more. Okay?
I don't know if we can get through all 8 of these things. Depends how much we talk about each one. And again, I don't know if we're necessarily going to disagree with these or whatever. I haven't read the article yet, so I just thought it looked pretty juicy. I'm going to dive in. Okay, well, this one is content warning, suicide PTSD. That's what it says. So
Okay.
I don't know what that... Now, what do you think that means? If they say content warning, suicide, does that mean that are they warning us about simply the word suicide being used, or are they going to talk at length about suicide?
I would think that they would be discussing not just a word, but they would be going into the subject. Like maybe, an account of someone actually doing it.
Well, we'll find out. And again, we'll see if it's only the word.
I really don't have much faith in people like this, but goddamn, if it's just the word itself.
Well, again, then that would go back to the point I just made, which is that they put the word at the beginning of the article.
Yes,
like you can't
avoid
avoid it without reading it first.
You can't do that. It's impossible.
Right.
Because even if you said, okay, we're going to get rid of the word suicide, you still have to have a euphemism.
Right.
Which means the same thing.
Yeah.
Which would have the same problems for someone.
Because language is an expression of thoughts. So if we're going to try to do this and say allow people to avoid language, that means you're trying to control people think, which is just impossible.
Right, exactly.
You can't prevent...
There is no such thing as a bad word.
You can't prevent people from not thinking about suicide if that's what they're going to think about.
If trigger is a bad word for people, then wouldn't firing mechanism, that's bad, right?
Well, anything.
That's
anything
exactly
related to guns or violence.
Yeah.
Or if you say, or if you accidentally use and see, this is the thing. Are we supposed to go around life now, and we're supposed to be censoring ourselves? So, if you were talking to somebody, you say, "Hey, you're gonna pull the trigger on that." Oh God, I'm sorry.
Fuck! I said.
Fuck! Oh God, I said fuck. Maybe that offends you.
Do you have PTSD?
Yeah. Oh God, I said P. Oh shit, I used that letter. Fuck. I know. I mean, what if it's what if you said STD? You're like, oh shit, oh STD. That's kind of like PTSD.
Am I shaming?
It's like
maybe they have an STD, bro. You don't know.
Right, you're shaming. That's what I mean. I refuse to go around life.
No, absolutely.
Worrying about
it's exhausting and it's ridiculous.
Worrying about offending every single person. I don't want to offend anyone, but people are going to be offended no matter what you do.
Yes.
So stop trying to worry about. And by the way, I was thinking about this recently as well, because like I just said, I don't, based on my limited traveling experience, I haven't seen this level of obsession in America we have with offense in other countries, the point where every little word. And I really think it's because, I used to think that and I still do think actually, one of the best things about our culture is that we value the individual. But is it possible we value the individual too much now? And that everything is becoming so selfish? We're valuing individuals so much that people think they're entitled to not be offended in life. That's ridiculous to me. Because you're not the most important person in the world. You know what I mean?
But see, here's the thing, though, about that idea, is that I feel that it's not necessarily... In some ways, it is the idea of the individual, but what about the person who's being offensive? It's also they're attacking the individual by saying, well, you can't slut shame. Right? They want to attack what I say or how I say things, my verbiage. Mm-hmm. Well, that's an attack on the individual too.
Sure. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to wonder why people feel they're so entitled to not, when I don't see it in other cultures, where people are, for example, when you go to China, I'm not saying it's right there, I'm not saying it's okay, but when I explained to some of my Chinese friends about the idea of fat shaming, they were like, "What, so?" Because for them that's really common in a lot of Asian countries, especially for girls and stuff. Again, I'm not saying I agree with it, but they don't see why it's a problem. If you tell girls, mothers will tell their daughters, "Oh, honey, you're getting too fat," and then the daughters are like, "Oh God, I gotta lose weight." They don't think of it as "How dare you, mom?"
Well, here's what's funny.
It's not part.
Here's what's funny is a few years ago, if you would ask me, how do you feel about fat shaming? Before it was really this big thing.
Yeah.
I would be like, yeah, it's really bad, and I wish people wouldn't, especially girls that are, 12, 13.
Yeah.
I really wish people wouldn't put such an emphasis on how they look, because they do have a lot of problems with, anorexia and stuff, and they're very easily affected by that. And I still do feel that way.
Right.
But this whole fat shit, it's too much.
Right.
It's way overblown.
Well, really the problem to me is that, I'm against fat shaming as well, but the problem is the definition of fat shaming has been expanded to include any discussion of physical features, or if a guy's we just watched that video with those kids from whatever band it was, I think it was One Direction or whatever they're fucking called. I don't know. It was some musical group. I don't know if they're British. I think they're British, right? And they were saying, I guess they probably mentioned something about we like a girl who's thin.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying every single girl in the world had to be thin.
No.
And that if you're not thin, you're not.
That is his.
You
preference.
have no value. Yeah, he said. But then they say that's fat shaming.
That's why I think it's an attack on the individual, because it's not okay for him to feel the way he does.
Right. Well, you're right. Yeah. I mean, that's true. But my point was just like I think that we focus so much on the importance of the individual to the point where we actually sacrifice any sense of like commonality. I mean, in other words, let's take for an example. Let's say there was a joke. A lot of people say there's no such thing as a funny rape joke. Obviously,
Bullshit.
Not true. There's been plenty of funny ones.
And Carlin already addressed this.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Norton had a really good one. He had a big, discussion about it with Lindy West, whatever her name is. Some feminist writer. But if you have a joke, let's say there's 100 people listening to the joke, and 99 people think it's funny, and then one person doesn't. Like, I don't think that you're entitled to demand anything as that one person.
Right.
You're entitled to your feelings, and that sucks that you felt bad.
That's how I've always felt about.
But what about the common? I don't want to say the common good. But what about the common mentality or the feelings of the masses? I mean, doesn't that have any value? In other words, why are you more important than the other 99 people?
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that the masses are always correct. Far from it.
No, hell no.
The mass, when it comes to opinions and things like that. But the point is, I don't think you're entitled to any sense of personal vindication over the vast majority of people just because you think you're the most important one.
Right.
And that your feelings are the correct one, all this stuff. So, anyway.
What's really sort of creeping me out is, there's always been these ideas in the fringes. There's always been these, in the past, whether they were fat shaming or whatever. People trying to censor people's thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
But now they tread water so easily. People take them seriously. And that's what I don't get it. I don't know where it's coming from.
Well,
I think it's people don't want to seem like they don't care. They're too afraid to say, "Well, I agree with you to some extent, but you're taking it too far." People are afraid to do that these days.
I think it's also just that our generation, especially. I mean, I guess this happens all the time, but I mean, I think it's been studied. I'm not sure that our generation is like much more dissatisfied with life than previous generations, and they see all this stuff as a really good way of categorizing all their dissatisfaction.
Okay.
It's like when someone reveals, let's say, think about the new fad, one of the new fad things to get offended about is cultural appropriation. I mean, I haven't heard that word until the last couple months.
All right,
I don't know when it was created, but all of a sudden it's a big issue now because people have found a new phylum to put. If I
Is
could,
it a phylum or kingdom?
I don't know. I'm not sure on the distinction, but they found a new offense phylum to put their feeling into, right? So now they go, yeah, I did have this feeling every time when I saw Vanilla Ice, like, why was Vanilla Ice such a douchebag? Oh, he was doing this, and now and then once you put this name on it, you can treat it like it's this sin to be committed, and then everything can be
sounds so much more official, right?
Right, and then everything can be just lumped in there.
Yeah, you just kind of suck it all up.
Like there was the recent article.
That thing.
There was a recent article in Slate. I just told you about that. This, I guess she was Indian. I don't know. I'm sure if I say the wrong country, she'll fucking, I'll
How
be
dare you,
flamed.
piece of shit.
But I think she was Indian. I don't remember. And she said that white women shouldn't do belly dancing because of her. And again, this article was like incredibly bloated. It's like, how many reasons can there really be? But she went into all this detail about it. And belly dancing is like, and they say. So and of course, I thought it was funny that she said white people. She didn't mention any other races. I guess only white people can do it.
There's a few of them out there.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware of that.
Samoans, they're cool. They can do it.
Yeah, they can do it. Yeah, Nepalese.
Yeah,
no problem.
Belly dance your ass off.
But she said they can't do it, and it's because it disrespects them and blah blah blah. And it's like, it just allows people to now say anything that one race does from another race, they can just throw it in there, and then because it allows you to not have to examine everything on its own merits. You can just lump everything together.
Right. Well, it's that. So
cultural
it's
appropriation and cultural appropriation equals bad.
Right.
So I'll just file everything.
Just
in there.
like fat shaming.
Right. Fat shaming. Everything about it. Oh, the ad has a woman with a six pack. Fat shaming.
Right.
Like, there's no sense of scale or degree.
No.
There's no, like, well...
There's no objectiveness.
Right.
If it's a part of this, it's bad.
Right. So you're telling me that if I go up to a girl and I say, you fat fucking pig...
Right.
Is the same thing as if I made an advertisement as a personal trainer, like that woman, Maria Kang did, and I advertised my fit body. I don't have a fit body, I'm saying she did.
Right.
But, and she advertises her fit body and says, what's your excuse? Those are both the same thing?
Yeah, they're both fat shaming.
Right. I mean, there
There's
seems
no,
to be
like,
a pretty big distinction.
They don't, like, you know, categorize,
No
like this is fat shaming 1.
Mm-hmm.
This is fat shaming level 2. Fat shaming level 2A. Like, they just say, well, you're fat shaming. It's silly.
People who... Again,
how about you're an asshole? What happened to that?
Well, I think this is another problem with attaching yourself to a group or to a fixed name of philosophy, is that people who do that hate nuance.
Oh, hell yeah. Because nuance starts to tear down what they're doing.
I think they hate nuance more than they hate the polar opposite of their own opinion. Because at least that they can attack very easily.
What does nuance require? It requires objectivity and really, really digging into lay out that nuance.
Well, and it requires divorcing yourself from a fixed position, which is totally against what they're doing. They say, I am a social justice warrior, okay? Or I am a Democrat, or I am a Christian, so... That means that I'm fixed into this box. I can't really venture too far into that.
Dinosaurs did not exist.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And then once the fossils come out, it's like, oh boy.
Right.
They hate nuance because at least and they don't know how to attack it because nuanced views will say, well, I agree with you on some things, but and they're like, huh?
Yeah.
They're like, you mean you don't just hate everything
in my experience, I know there could be a feminist watching this or whoever going, oh ho ho. A lot of these people don't welcome conversation, like in this.
No.
They're not too inclined to have discussion about how they feel.
Well, I talked about it before. I mean, a lot of my Facebook friends, most of them seem to be, at least most of the vocal ones, are all about, you know, social justice and BuzzFeed. And whenever I like comment on the articles, I mean, I'm very polite and I'm very rational. A lot of times people just don't reply. I think it's very interesting.
It is weird.
It just sits there like
they're so loud,
and,
you know, bombastic with how they feel, but however they won't. You know,
it's like I didn't attack you.
It is weird.
Why can you not engage in a? Isn't that a positive thing? Isn't that?
It's really cool too. I think when you see people who have like pretty famous people, and like even semi-famous, you know, have pretty respected YouTube, whatever. And they make a video, and you see them reply to a few comments. That's really cool. You know?
Right, yeah. Like the actual creator.
Yeah, you see him replying to comments, and that's really... People like that a lot. I know I do. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, this guy's actually taking the time to do this.
Yeah.
He's actually reading this shit. Mm-hmm. So whatever.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that people don't really want to... And I mean, I think that's the problem, too, with calling feminism a philosophy, or a lot of this stuff a philosophy, is that, I mean, philosophy... was meant to be the pursuit of truth, not just like I found the truth and I'm gonna philosophize about how right I am. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean that it's sort of actually anti-philosophy, really, if you think of the classical term of it. So, anyway, guess we should try to get into this article. Let's see if we can. Again, we might not, and that's cool. I mean, we're not bound to any fixed plan. It's just I think it's a good thing to have something to go off of, so that if our conversation is sort of reaches a stalling point,
well, back to the article.
Yeah, stimulate it on, and we may never get through it, but that's okay, because this is whatever we want to do with the internet. All right, so where were we? All right, we're at the intro still. We haven't gotten to any of the 8.
Pretty good pace.
Yeah, so far so good. This might be a multi-part 3-hour epic. All right, so content warning. All right. Actually, I didn't even read this part yet. Okay, I'm still on the very first line. Content warning, suicide, PTSD. I've heard a lot of debate around content warnings, popularly but problematically referred to as trigger warnings. Oh, here's, by the way, another probably 40-minute tangent. I'm so tired of this word problematic. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
Yeah, well, another word.
Yeah, sure. But this has like been adopted by social justice warriors.
Okay.
They just love to use this word. I think they think it sounds very academic.
Okay, it's a buzzword now.
It's like, I think, because what
they
really
want... is that such like a fucking big... Wait, whoa.
Well, no, I think the reason they use it is that they want to act like they're being very academic and objective, whereas they're really being very emotional.
Right.
So when they say, because for example, I didn't finish watching it with you, but that video with those guys from that boy band, and then all the women were responding.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of it, but one of the girls at the end, she was like, she wasn't being very emotional, she was very, very logical, and she was like, let me tell you why this is problematic. See, this is what they say. What they really want to say is, like, I find this really annoying. But they don't want to...
Exactly.
That is too... They think that's, like, seems too subjective.
Yeah.
Ironically, they're, like, the most subjective people out there.
Yeah.
But they want to put on this facade of objectivity. Whereas I think we're fairly objective, but we phrase things in a very subjective way because we're humans.
Why wouldn't we?
And we admit that.
Can't help
so
it.
This is just a very annoying word. If you look into the... It's, like...
Problematic.
Yeah. Popularly, but problematically.
Damn.
Problematic. It's just, and it's a very vague word, like problematic.
Well, it is, yeah.
What doesn't have problems? And I've got to say, I'm stunned. Who knew a simple request could cause this much of a stir? By the way, this is another annoying thing as well. I don't know the term, but I think it's there's probably a terminological fallacy. I don't know. When people do something really unreasonable, then they play like this victim, like, I'm shocked.
Oh, that happens all the time.
People don't want to, like, censor themselves, and they act like they're just astonished that you wouldn't jump right on board with their...
yeah, like, I can't believe people didn't, people just aren't ready yet for this idea.
Yeah.
They say shit like that,
Yeah. And it's also something that women do a lot in relationships. I mean, I think it's kind of like, there's something called gaslighting.
Yeah,
like when or people, not just women, but women, in my experience, women do it a lot in relationships where they say something to, like, piss you off.
Yeah.
And then if you go anywhere beyond a normal emotional level, they're like, why are you doing that, Mr. Angry? And why are you...
Right.
God, you're getting so angry. It's like, yeah, you just said something that's really angering.
Yeah, you
Am I
did
not allowed to
something
feel
that
emotions?
you did something that pissed me off.
Right. But they do that, it's like this whole weird psychological
But when they're
manipulation
crying, right? Oh my god! And you go like, "What's wrong?" I don't know. I just want to cry.
Yeah, you don't respect my feelings.
Or even worse, I don't know. I just want to cry. Well, okay,
that makes sense.
It's okay for them to be emotional.
Anyway, so we're still in the first 2 sentences. All right, so I've got to say I'm stunned. Who knew such a simple request could cause this much of a stir? And I got to find, there is some name for this where you it's like you phrase it as if it's called, like, argument from something. Can't remember. And it's also an assumption where you just say, it's like you assume that you're automatically right, and then you question other people for disagreeing.
Right.
As if they're...
It's not your idea that's wrong.
Yeah.
It's just they're not ready for that idea yet.
Right. Something like that. Anyway, so if you're not... Alright, we already read that part. Some pretty common ones include sexual assault, alcohol consumption...
Which you've just said.
Or violence.
Jesus, what isn't?
What does that mean? Alcohol consumption. You have to. What is that? How can you be triggered with that?
So
like,
I guess alcohol itself is okay, right? But only when it's consumed, then it's bad.
But what does
it
can
trigger things?
But what does it mean at all? Don't even. I mean, I'm not getting that detail. What does it even mean to say, like, how and what? Who can be triggered by that? Someone who drank a lot.
I guess
alcoholic.
A fucking alcoholic.
If you talk about how do you go through life.
You don't.
How do you leave your house and see any beer in a store?
You don't.
Oh.
This is bullshit.
That explains it. You only read everydayfeminism.com. You don't leave your house.
Well, no, if you read that, you just read it again. Which goes back to the other... You just read it again.
Yeah, it's like this weird mindfuck inception. It's like triggerception. Alright, so... If someone has trauma around one of these areas and could find themselves triggered by the material... I thought they couldn't say triggered!
They can't. What are they doing?
I don't know.
This is... Wow, man.
I don't get it, man. I really don't. It's like... It's so inconsistent. They just said they're not supposed to say triggered, and they just did. Triggered by the material. I'm going to say it.
Whoa!
I hope someone gets triggered by the... If you're triggered by the word trigger... I mean, you're done. I mean, how can you live life?
Well, fuck you. I'm not gonna compensate.
If you're that easily defeated by, how can you have a job? How can you go out and experience?
Well, I hope you're in a mental institution or somewhere getting help because you're not.
So, and then you have access to the internet.
Right.
Well, okay.
Can't really cope with life.
It allows them to opt out or brace themselves before they have a traumatic reaction to it. Brace yourself, dude.
Shit. Squeeze your butt cheeks.
I know. Make sure to tighten up your gluteus maximus. Alright, so... For example, a dear friend of mine is a suicide attempt survivor.
Once you said that word.
In other words, a failure. In other words, not very committed to her attempts. All right, so
she sucks at killing herself.
In the years after her attempt, she had tried to avoid articles and movies that had some kind of detailed reference to suicide.
Okay.
All right, because she had post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of her attempt, engaging with anything that included suicide would cause a panic attack and flashbacks, and it was very harmful for her mental health and recovery. But here's my problem with that. Someone could potentially be traumatized by anything in the world.
Anything.
So that's on you to avoid everything.
I'm sorry, but at some point, I'm not sorry. This is your problem.
Yeah.
This is her problem. Right? It's not society's problem. Mm-hmm. It's not that some people are so sensitive to some of these things. It's not our problem. It's theirs. It's like that's what I think. That's the problem.
I mean, if you're that easily broken down by such an encounter, then don't watch movies.
Right.
It sucks to say, but that's right. Don't watch
try
movies.
to fix this yourself and get over it.
Yeah.
Don't
watch TV.
You can't expect all of society to censor themselves so much in fear of setting these people off. That's ridiculous.
To me, he says this is a no-brainer, but to me, this is a no-brainer. It's on you to avoid it.
Right. It's not my problem.
Yeah,
it's not society's problem.
I mean, it sucks, but
it does suck.
But this is the essence of the social justice warrior sort of fallacy, or the social justice warrior, cognitive dissonance, is that just because you want something different, it doesn't mean that it ever can be.
Right, and it doesn't mean that, again, it's other people's problem.
Yeah.
I wish that person didn't have this issue, but that doesn't mean that everything needs a warning and a fucking avoidance of certain phrases. It's silly.
It's like saying if someone was paralyzed from the waist down, and he's like, but I really want to run. Mm-hmm. And then you say, well, you can't. He's like, well, I want you to restructure the world so I can run.
Right.
And you're like, no, it sucks. I wish you weren't paralyzed, but you are, sir. You can't run. I mean, barring any sort of technological, but I'm saying...
Well, that's handicap shaming.
Right. Certainly is, yeah. Look at me, I'm running. Yeah. That's run privilege, I guess. Alright, so where was he? She, whatever. For me, content warnings are sort of a no-brainer. As a writer, I want to make sure that my content isn't harming my audience.
Well, then do it. It's up to you.
Yeah, and by the way, let's not ever challenge anyone in our creation. That's against the idea of creative endeavors. Let's make sure everything's really safe and comfortable. And that I'm sensitive to the needs of those who are still trying to heal from trauma or dealing with a disability like PTSD, anxiety, or a phobia. Okay, so I'm arachnophobic, so don't put any... give me a spider warning.
Right, and she should know that. And she should know that.
Yeah.
She should know what sets you off. Whatever. Whatever the fucking person is.
I don't know. I have to go back and read his other article and see what I'm supposed to call. And that's the thing, too. I mean, I don't... If somebody says, hey, I prefer you call me... if they made up a new word, like, it was like Norb... And that means, like, it's not he, she. I would do it if that's what you want.
Right.
To respect you. That's fine. I'll do that. But I don't know what it is, so don't get pissed off at me.
Right, well, just being honest. I don't know what to call this person, neither do you.
Yeah. Alright, anyway. Life is already difficult for survivors, so why make it harder? Alright, well, I didn't say it doesn't mean make it harder, but why go out of your way to fix every problem?
Right, exactly.
But there is a lot of resistance still, despite it being a fairly simple request. So I want to explore that opposition, namely...
Just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's okay.
What we're actually saying is that folks with disabilities and trauma, when we ignore or mock their requests for content warnings. You may not be literally saying these things, but the following might be implied whenever you dismiss a survivor of trauma. He wanted to make sure that we know we're not literally saying these exact 8 things, in case that wasn't already clear. This is a very...
So this is what I was going back to before, where you may not say trigger, but something like firing mechanism could set them off.
Well, no. In other words, he's phrasing this article as, it says, when you don't... The title is, when you don't use trigger warnings, you're saying these 8 things.
Okay.
But he thinks that we're not smart enough to figure out it means implication.
Right.
He thought we were saying that we're literally saying these exact 8 sentences, which...
Who the fuck?
An idiot. Which is probably who most of their reader base is, to be honest. Okay. Number 1. So these are the things that people are supposedly saying. This is like he's phrasing it. Basically he's making straw men. It's 8 different straw men. Adding a couple of words at the beginning. I'm going to read it in a tone that he probably is, adding a couple of words at the beginning of my content is so hard. Many people talk about the inconvenience of content warnings. As a writer, I'm calling bullshit on that. I think when people say I'm calling bullshit, that's the end of the argument.
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit, bro.
Okay, I'm calling bullshit on this. Stop there. I call bullshit.
Conversation over.
Yeah. Even if writing an additional sentence at the beginning of my article were difficult, which it's not, it will never compare to the inconvenience of a serious panic attack, a flashback. Again, but it's not your inconvenience. Right. It says that he's trying to compare the inconvenience, but that's not my responsibility.
No.
Your inconvenience is not my inconvenience.
Absolutely not.
I have no desire to add inconvenience for anyone, but it's also not my responsibility to reduce every single fucking person in the world.
Just like you said, it's a total straw man.
Yeah.
When we were talking about how ridiculous this is to expect people to do these stupid warnings, we never mentioned that, it's a pain in the ass.
Right.
Or it's hard. No.
Yeah, and it's not really
implying
that. Yeah. I don't think anyone, and he's also probably misrepresenting.
Like, who the fuck? Alright, think about this. Think about the person who, having the thought of, you know what, this is a really good idea, and we should totally do this. It could save lives and make people's lives better. But, man, I don't fucking feel like it. It's annoying. Mm-hmm. Who would have that idea? Who would think like that?
I don't know.
No one.
Well, I think when he says, he says, many people talk about the inconvenience. Now, I don't know what exactly he's referring to. There's no citation of that. But I'm guessing that he's probably misrepresenting it. Most people who say that are probably saying what we said, which is that how can you anticipate everything that can be a trigger?
Right.
That's the inconvenience. No one's saying that it's hard.
Basically, no one's saying this.
Yeah, his thing is just this. Content warning, suicide PTSD. Is anyone really saying that's hard? No.
Right. No,
probably
one's saying
not.
that.
No, if they are, they're fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But
no one's saying
the
that. The
challenge is, how do you distill exactly every possible trigger, every possible offensive thing? You can't do it. It can't be done. It's a slippery slope. 2, PTSD? Lulz, who cares? No question mark, though.
Hell?
Many of the folks who request content warnings are people dealing with PTSD. Is this like the new ADHD? Like everyone has it?
I guess.
Well, there was the famous, I don't remember her name, but there was an infamous now case of a girl who said that she got PTSD from Twitter, who harassed her on it.
Oh, man. Well, how did that go down?
I don't know.
Was that here in the States?
Yeah. They said mean stuff to her, and she couldn't leave her house for 3 days because they were, like, mean to her. Again, it's like, don't go on the internet. What the fuck? Why is it everyone else's job? Symptoms of this disorder can be very debilitating. Yeah, we know. But people who have it are usually people who've gone through a fucking, torture, war.
Post-traumatic stress? I mean, come on. What is the name? What is the...
I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I'm wondering if this is one of those things where it's like, you diagnose it. It's not like a physical ailment where you can actually say, yes, you have the blood work of PTSD. It's something people probably now, they're probably writing off a bunch of prescriptions and diagnoses. Okay, you have PTSD. Right. Get out of here. Just like ADHD. I mean, there's the whole thing about all those fucking kids who are diagnosed with ADHD.
And just pumped full of Ritalin.
Yeah, and drugged up. And how many of them might not actually have had any real problem?
Well, especially nowadays because they prescribe Adderall. Mm-hmm. So people are just definitely manipulating doctors and just getting Adderall and selling it or just getting high.
Yeah. Okay, where was I? Okay, PTSD. Content warnings can be important for people with PTSD who are trying to avoid content that may trigger one of their episodes. When people oppose content warnings, treat them as though they are frivolous requests coming from an oversensitive people. They completely undermine the seriousness of conditions like PTSD.
No, we don't.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Not at all.
Again, that's like saying it's like saying,
Total straw man, dude.
Right. It's like saying I want to if in my house I don't install a handicap ramp, I'm undermining people who are...
Right.
I'm undermining the condition. No, I'm not. I just, it's not... I don't really go out of my way to...
You're not accommodating every possible handicapped person that you
Right.
can.
I mean, I didn't make like a ladder to my house to make it more difficult. You know what I mean? Like, they act as if...
I mean, I don't know what else
it's called being neutral.
Yes, right.
It's not, it's not undermining
me saying
anything.
I'm not going to censor myself in fear of giving these people a bad day or whatever. Right. Doesn't mean I don't give a fuck about them. What? Jeez.
When you oppose...
I mean, how dare you say something like that? It's ridiculous. It's frivolous.
When you oppose those warnings, you're saying that PTSD isn't a legitimate enough concern to warrant a slight adjustment in how we present material so that folks dealing with this disorder can actively participate when they're ready and able. In other words, you're suggesting you just don't care, and that's pretty lousy. Okay.
Well, I don't care.
Yeah.
You're right.
Right. I mean, I don't think... We talked about this issue before. I don't think that humans are meant to care about every single fucking person, person in the world, and weird. Every single problem. It's not weird. Natural.
Well, now it's every lion, even.
Right. Every single atom of the fucking organism. We're supposed to care equally about it. I'm sorry, I just don't.
No, I don't, and I won't feel bad for it ever.
Right. I mean, there's stuff I do care about, but that's me. I mean, we
didn't evolve with that. We evolved caring about small groups of people.
Yeah, I mean, how many people have so much anxiety? They're always worrying about wars and God knows where and all these other places. It's like, dude, we're not really necessarily mentally...
I care deeply about the people that I know.
I wonder if there's been done any research about that. I think that's something that could be researched.
I would be very curious to know, the mental health of people who are, like you just described.
Yeah. I mean, compared to people who live in a relatively tribal situation, and they have a limited number of things that they actually think about.
Right.
And, I mean, not things, but a limited number of events and people that they actually attach their
emotions to.
Yeah, their emotions to. So, I don't know. It's something that should be investigated.
I would love to know that.
Number 3, I really want to make your already difficult life more difficult. No, it's just that I don't want to make... I don't...
That's all you have to say? I don't want to make your already difficult life more difficult.
Well, that's the third headline. There's a big, elaborate. Oh, all right. I've heard a lot of folks who oppose content warnings saying to me, "Welcome to the real world. If you can't deal with this article, how are you going to deal with real life?" Okay, we just said that. Let's see what his response is. "You don't need to tell a survivor that the real world." He put that in quotes. I don't know why. It's not real. Is this real life? Is hard because they already know that. They're already living in it, trying to survive and trying to heal. Okay. And your refusal to include content warnings takes already difficult circumstances and make them even harder. Does it really, though?
No, it doesn't.
I mean, I think that reading something online is, even if it has the warning, or even if it has the content that triggers you, is much easier than experiencing it in the wild, where, everything is not restricted to what's typed in the page.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, when you go out in the real world, you could, let's say you were triggered by fucking peanuts. I mean, you could go out and then, all of a sudden, you would see a guy eating a big handful of peanuts.
Yeah, peanut butter.
Is that not worse than I type peanut in my article?
Yeah.
So I don't see how...
in this case, let's take trigger. You go outside and see triggers all the time. Mm-hmm. Billboard ads for the military and shit.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
What if you go to a Willie Nelson concert and his guitar is named Trigger?
Right.
Fuck Willie. Willie's insensitive, man. What's up with Willie Nelson? He's triggering all these people with Trigger. He should make his next album called... Oh, that'd be badass if his next album was called Trigger Warning.
That'd be sweet, actually.
Sweet. And it was just him, shredding.
Yeah.
He's like, trigger warning, motherfuckers. All right. Where was I? Okay. What's the problem with making writing, film, and, yes, classrooms more accessible to people for people with trauma? What does that mean? That had some extra...
Wait, what now?
He said, what's the problem with making writing, film, and, parentheses, yes, classrooms more accessible for people with trauma? Is this the new thing now? Teachers are supposed to censor every little fucking word they use? Guys, okay, I just want to let the class know.
Well, probably because you mentioned earlier was something with sexism, how when she was asking for strong boys to come out and lift shit, that's another example in the classroom.
Right, well, she triggered because that girl was,
sexist shit.
It's like, again, what about my life?
Right, exactly.
Like you said, but what about... I don't want to make... Why should I just make my life harder?
Right.
Who are you to tell me...
All this shit that he wants us to do.
Which, so fucking hypocritical.
Yes, because it's at my expense. Mm-hmm. And no, it's not just me having to put the shit down. It's me having to think.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah.
About what I'm saying, what I'm writing.
Right.
Oh shit, is this going to be a
Yeah.
Oh,
and the irony of him
that.
saying, but is it so hard? Well, it's just the same thing if I say, is it so hard to just deal with it? You
exactly.
rape survivor or whatever it is. It's the same exact thing. You don't know what I'm feeling.
Right.
I could have a mental disorder where I'm triggered by
Maybe
you.
it is really hard for you.
Yeah. How about this? I'm triggered by people trying to tell me how to think. That traumatizes me.
Does that offend you, Evan?
Does.
Damn right it does.
And that means I'm entitled to a lot of things. I'm entitled to now
say how you feel.
Well, he should get fired from this website. I'm entitled to that.
Right.
Fired.
Let's put his fucking address out there.
Yeah, because he offended me. You see, I mean,
let's throw him to the fucking lions.
Is it clear to they just can't see what's right in front of them. It's amazing to me. Where was I? All right, so it's like forcing someone to wear heavy weights while they run a marathon, which is exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna skip. We already
really
okay.
funny.
Let's try to move. We debunked that. All right, number 4. Go ahead, have a panic attack today.
Who says that?
Well, remember,
have a fucking panic attack.
I'm actually gonna start saying to people, "Go ahead, have a panic attack, panicky. Come on, you little panicky panickerton."
Oh my god.
If you're not interested in preventing a panic attack, especially when it's so easy to avert, it sounds to me like
apparently it's not easy at all. It's really hard.
It sounds to me like you don't care if it happens. Just saying. This is, by the way, this is another thing I detect in these articles when I said they're so bloated?
Yeah.
A lot of times they repeat the same thing. Like, he just said the exact...
Mm-hmm.
This was like number 2, right? Basically...
Then you don't care.
It's just that he changed PTSD to panic attack. But, again, those could be folded in together.
Absolutely.
You say PTSD and panic attacks.
Condense these fucking articles.
Watch
people.
the George Carlin bit about the 10 Commandments.
Absolutely.
And see how 10 can become 2.
And you're down to 3.
Yeah. I mean, that was a perfect example. I mean... Well, that's why too. That's another issue with people, having with like these websites where they need to have a bunch of content makers.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of standards like for writing ability, and if you've ever worked in a professional environment where you have to like actually write stuff, people memos, like you have to learn about condensing information, but these people don't. So, all right, number 5. I don't think making my content accessible is all that important. Okay, I'm just gonna skim because this is
getting redundant.
This has like 5 paragraphs in it as well. So, we label the deep end of a swimming pool, for example, so that folks who can't swim can make a smart decision about whether or not. Yeah, because they could die. Are you gonna die from reading a fucking article?
Yeah.
Yes, one person died from. Did they? We create ratings for movies so that parents can decide if their children should be watching violent films. Oh yeah, and go ahead and watch the movie. This film is not yet rated. If you want to see all the fucking horseshit surrounding that
whole lot of corruption and bullshit.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna accept that as like any sort of valid analogy. We label foods that have allergens so that people don't die.
Again, life or death. Okay.
Right, versus your feelings. See, there's a difference. We would never tell someone who can't. Or it's just all that same.
It's redundant.
Yeah, and he says we would never tell someone who can't swim that they're too sensitive for asking how deep the water is. Again, because they
went back to
they
that?
could die. Well, he's repeating the same.
Damn.
I know. It's like, get a fucking editor, dude. All right, number 6. Stigmatizing mental health conditions is a cool hobby of mine. Actually, is a hobby of mine.
Stigmatizing
mental health conditions. That actually is my hobby. I like go wrong. What can I stigmatize today?
Yes.
Telling people with serious disorders like PTSD, anxiety, or phobias to just deal with it, or trivializing it by saying
that's not what you're saying.
Too sensitive, upholds negative stereotypes, blah blah blah. Okay, it's just kind of the same.
He's already made that point.
Yeah, it's just the same.
Damn, this is falling apart.
It's just getting worse, and we're only number 6. There's still 2 more. And again, it's also, I mean, if we have said something like deal with it, what the context of that is what we're saying is not necessarily deal with it in the sense of like accept what you have, but deal with the fact that you live in a very unpredictable and chaotic world,
and you're triggered by these very small words.
Right.
Why should that be everyone else's problem?
Or deal with the reality that you may have to
adjust your life.
Yeah, at least until you can get all these. I mean, as far as I know, most of these disorders have treatments available to them.
Yeah,
which takes time.
Maybe
in the interim,
right?
You may have to make some serious changes in your life.
Yep. Not everyone else.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's your fault. It's not your fault for being traumatized or your fault for having whatever disorder.
It sucks. You have it.
And again, I also question the validity of some of these diagnoses. I mean, I don't know for sure, but how many people really have what can be defined as like objective PTSD?
What was originally called?
Can you define that?
It was originally called a shell shock.
Yeah.
Because the only people getting this shit were exposed to horrendous,
right, and they were like
things
near
that
catatonic.
That happened in war.
Right.
Now, it happens to them on Twitter. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on. Don't bullshit me. All right. Where was I? When you act like content warning is just a silly request, what you're really saying is that mental illness and the people who are surviving with it every day are just silly. Again, no, that's a false analogy, and he's connecting what we're saying. Saying the request is silly doesn't mean that they are silly.
No, it doesn't at all.
Yeah,
he's trying to say that he already made this fucking point.
It's like if somebody said, if you say that putting your kid in a plastic bubble is silly, it's like you're saying that disease is silly.
Right.
No. I'm saying that this
method of prevention
method is silly.
It's ridiculous.
Right. Do you see the difference there? I mean,
why does that mean that I don't care about folks with disorders? What the fuck? Again, how dare you say that? It's frivolous.
That's just our shitlord logic.
It's frivolous, man.
By the way, do you know that word too? Shitlord.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We're shitlord. That's an awesome word.
It is. I love that word.
Yeah, thank you for giving us that. Just like people, they took back queer or whatever. Right. I'm gonna take back shitlord. I'm calling myself that. Shitlord. I like to ignore my audience and my impact. Okay.
Who the fuck ignores their audience?
Well, I think he's trying to make the argument now that, like, if you... it's almost like an economic argument, Like, well, you're going to be affecting your impact and your, because you're excluding those people or something. As a writer, I'm concerned if there are people who can't access my content and learn from it. Because every time... I don't know why I'm using his voice. It's kind of how he talks, though.
Yeah.
Because each time that they try to, they are harmed by what I've put out into the world. As a writer, I'm concerned about... Well, what I'm more concerned about...
Guess what? How come some of the most famous writers out there are people that don't really care? And they say what's in their mind. And they don't go out of their way to offend, but they're self-confident in what they have to say. Because that's what people want to fucking read.
They didn't do things in this really calculated, overthought way. They were trying to express themselves.
That's not fun to read
freely.
It's not fun to read like that.
But you can express yourself freely if you're doing one of those slam poetry things where the women are like, my vaginas. Right. Remember you ever see that Howard Stern? Or the Opie and Anthony, they were talking about Howard Stern's daughter was in this really weird play.
No.
And then she was given this monologue, and she was talking about, she's like, my vagina is God, and my vagina is a goddess. And it was just this really, really stupid fucking...
You just don't get it. It's too highbrow for you.
What do you call avant-garde kind of art? What was that other thing? It's interior
semiotics. Check that out.
Look that up if you haven't already.
Interior semiotics.
Yeah. What is it? SEMIO.
SEMIOTICS.
Yeah. Interior is first word. If it's still out there.
I hope so.
God, that was a long time ago when we saw that video.
5 years or so.
No, this was 2006, I think. I think we were in high school. Yeah, we were.
God damn.
I remember watching it on MySpace. Somebody had it on MySpace or something. Okay. Number 8, finally. Your trauma doesn't matter to me. Ultimately, the big takeaway that many folks have when you refuse to include content warnings is that the trauma that they have experienced isn't important to you.
Again, he's...
So it's kind of just the same stuff again. Like, you don't care.
Right. He's always saying you don't care about their problem.
Mm-hmm. What's ridiculous? Blah, blah, blah. Their request is ridiculous. Here's the closing line, which I find fascinating. What's ridiculous is that people are still debating about this as if your convenience trumps their trauma. Oh, no, that's not the closing line. There's another fucking 5 paragraphs. Holy. Jeez. But is it ridiculous to debate something? Is debate ever ridiculous, really?
Marketplace of ideas? Does that
have any value in...
Does that still hold up?
Well,
I
again,
think so.
Well, that's why this kind of stuff can't be called legitimate philosophy, in my opinion. I mean,
not if you're willing to talk about it.
You can call it a mindset or an attitude, but please don't use the word philosophy.
Right.
Because philosophy was, as you said, intended to be a tool where people would try to find truth and,
the dialectic.
Yeah, and like you said, marketplace of ideas and free exchange.
Yes.
Not saying that debating it is ridiculous. Yeah, if you debate whether or not...
This guy's just saying...
If you debate whether or not the Earth revolves around the sun, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Right. But this guy's just saying, conversation's over. Everyone's agreed. You're just an asshole for not agreeing.
Yeah, I don't accept arguments like that.
No.
And I don't think we've ever, and nor would we ever, present arguments from ourselves like that. I mean, we express our opinion, but we don't say, like, I can't believe, you can't argue about this.
No.
Or the fact that you're bringing it up is ridiculous. We can say what you're doing is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But I don't think we would ever say that.
Did we say that once about this article tonight?
Oh.
No.
I mean, did we say that he shouldn't say this, that he can't? I mean,
No,
we're attacking the merits of it,
but
we're not attacking the creation, the fact of its creation.
I love that he can write what he wants.
Yeah.
Because what allows him to write what he wants, it allows me to write what I want.
And it gives us
simple.
Something to talk about.
Damn, yeah, it does.
To get all fired up over. All right. So on and so on. I don't know. This is just a lot of just rambling. And for some reason, some of the paragraphs are randomly bold. Is that like just to help you skim? I don't know. But like, see, it'll have this one is bold, and this one is not, and this one.
Yeah.
These two are not bold. It's just really kind of
looks professional, really.
Yeah. Oh.
This is a really bad article. All things considered.
Just technically speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
Well, it's very, very. I know a lot of these
speaking,
probably are, but it's just very redundant.
Yeah,
holy
and
crap.
again, that's just a sort of disease in all of these. A lot of these websites on any side is that they're so desperate for people to write for it.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that they're like the next report, and then they can. Oh well, I can't. I write just because you're doing it doesn't mean you're good at it. Just because somebody agreed
Right.
to put it out there doesn't mean that you're necessarily good at it, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, even the article we talked about last week was better written than that.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And that wasn't even great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, I wanted to talk about something. I remember when I went back and watched it, there was a thing where I had trailed off and I forgot to go back to the thing that I want to talk about. It's just, I don't know if this will go anywhere. But when, I don't know if I've told you this about this, or you've heard about this before, but when we were talking about, because the thing was about Japan, in case somebody's watching this that didn't watch episode 1, which you should because it was fucking amazing. We were talking about Japan, the woman couldn't have sex there. Have you heard about this thing called like grass-eating men or like herbivore?
You mentioned it to me before how these, in Japan, a lot of these younger people are just not interested in dating at all.
Yeah, well, men especially. I mean, well, also people. Yeah, you watch. There's a Vice documentary about it. Something like 40% of people under 30 are like single.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, and a lot of people there. Their birth rate is really low. They have a huge problem because there's a ton of elderly people and not enough people younger enough to support them and stuff in the system.
Yeah, to correct the deaths and everything.
Yeah, so it's pretty tight situation there. But yeah, there's been a change recently apparently with a decent amount of young men, in their 20s and 30s who are identify themselves as herbivores, and it seems that they just don't want to pursue women. They're kind of like it's so similar to MGTOW where they just like don't involve themselves. But these guys they're not really interested in sex, and apparently it's because it's really a backlash to their culture of the 80s and 90s when in Japan they had an economic boom, and there was this culture that like all men were supposed to go get really stressful office jobs and work 60, 70 hours a week. And then every night you were expected to go out and get drunk and chase secretaries and girls and all this stuff. And all these young guys looking at it like, why would I want to do that?
Right.
Like, I want to have hobbies and have a life. And they, they're pursuing things which, according to Japanese culture, is considered to be feminine, like different hobbies and stuff that they're interested in, like gardening and stuff. They think, why are you doing that? You're a man. But they just chose, I mean, really, it sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
But perhaps that is part of the reason why it's not just white women or Western women who are not getting laid in Tokyo. It could be all women because the guys are just not out there in force.
Yeah.
I also read another article by a Japanese woman who said that the grass eating thing has been overstated. There's not that many guys doing it, or that she said that some guys who call themselves grass eating, they're not at that level. They call themselves that, but what it really means is that they're just a little more sensitive to other things other than just women, but they still are having relationships.
Yeah, it could be that they don't want to live this, cliche life of being working 60, 70 hours in this office, but they're still fucking,
Yeah, so nobody can say what the numbers on that are, how many of them.
Well, it's still very interesting.
Men are grass eaters. Yeah, it's just funny that that's been happening, and I'm wondering if that will happen in China too, because in China you have a unique population situation, which is that there's something like 55% men. Mm-hmm. And 45% women, and it's only getting worse. The gender disparity, which is something like it seems very small, but it's like 30 million.
That's a lot, dude.
Yeah,
10%, and that's
it's
size.
Something like that. I don't know that it may be less, but it was like 30 million, whatever. There's a difference. So that means there's all these men there's not enough women basically to go around, as it were. I mean, it doesn't always work out that way because a certain amount of people just won't get married. But I wonder if as that increases, if like more and more men will just sort of reject. Because there, like, marriage is still definitely expected by their parents and by culture and society. So I wonder if more and more men just choose not to get married.
Almost certainly going to be some sort of backlash there. Yeah, they're going to throw their hands up and just reject the whole idea.
Some solution. Yeah. Right. But also, a lot of Chinese guys, too, now are marrying Vietnamese girls and apparently buying them, essentially.
Like, is that legal?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that really means. If it's like, when they say buy, does that mean... They pay a dowry.
Yeah, paying their fucking dad.
Which still goes on. I mean, my Chinese friends told me they do that in China with each other. They pay dowries and stuff.
That's like allowed, or they just fucking do it? No one knows?
I think so.
No one cares.
That's and it happens in Thailand as well. Okay. When I was there, this girl was telling me that they have a big problem in Thailand with a lot of young men because in Thailand the man, I believe, is expected to pay the dowry to the woman's family, and the price is contingent upon basically her value.
Right. If she's really hot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like not just that, but if she's like young, if she has a college education, depending on the situation of her family, or if she's just some, farmer's daughter or something, probably cheap. But if you want to get like the supposed, high class.
Yeah, coveted woman.
Yeah, you've got to pay more. And a lot of young men just can't afford to pay for it.
Yeah.
Like they want to get married, but then they can't afford
old guys
to pay the dowry. I don't know what happens.
Damn.
That's just what I was told by somebody who was living there. I may not be.
Well, I'm sure the price has to come down. I mean,
economics, right?
Yeah, you can't sell a bag of, bread for $5 million.
Right. Yeah, if no one's buying it. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting, but anyway, I guess we probably talked enough on this one.
Yeah. Can you see how long it is from here?
No,
I can't see. Fuck it.
Probably at least hour and a half or something. They tend to, probably an hour and a half. Anyway, so. All right, thanks for watching / listening. Anybody who's out there, if someone is. Actually, as of now, we still haven't released the first episode. Oh, darn, fell off. But it will be, of course, by the time this goes up. Thanks for watching and listening. And, if you're interested, please visit the website, diseasesofcivilization.us.
.us,
baby, because it's all about us. Yeah. There's really not that much going on there yet, but if you want to like contact me or us, that's probably the best way. And if you're interested in like putting any blog posts on there, I really want that website. My idea for that is that it'll become like a community. I don't want it to be. It's not any specific agenda. It's kind of like if you're listening to this and you're going like, you'll probably know whether or not you should be part of our community.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like you don't have marketplace of ideas, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying. Yeah. If you're watching this and your hatred of us is growing, then you're probably not. But well, it's just like we were talking about earlier, that Bill Hicks bit about the asshole club or whatever it was, and it's like all the assholes need to get together, but they can't because the fact they're assholes.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, are you coming over this weekend? Oh, fuck you. Yeah. Oh man, you're so cool.
Yeah.
You're
perfect.
They're
like exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of how we are. And it's like you either know. I mean, whether or not it's the mindset that you agree with, or it's the kind of philosophies you believe in or not. So, I hope that it will turn into somewhat of a community, through this, a podcast or YouTube channel, and also through the website. I mean, I don't expect it to blow up into thousands of people, but I mean, even if we had, because for us, I mean, I think one of the reasons we did this. One reason just because I was inspired by all the other people doing podcasts, especially Joe Rogan, whose podcast is one that I listen to the most. And for me, it was because, and one of the things that Joe Rogan always talked about on his podcast was that, he said a lot of people told me to listen to it because they just said, like, I just don't have people like this near me who I can talk to.
Yeah.
And
I know we have that problem.
Right. But we have each other.
Aww.
Not to be... I mean, if I can get emotional here for a second. Excuse me. Get choked up when I think about it. But, I mean, we have each other. We've been, like... I mean, we've pretty much been two peas in a pod since... When? What year? 2002 or 1?
1 or 2.
Yeah, it was 6th grade, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We met in 6th grade, and we just... For some reason, we just... we're very similar in the way that we think. We don't always agree on every specific issue and point, but the way that we look at things.
Yeah, right.
Like, we were just always... Yeah. Maybe we can talk about that next time in case someone's interested, but sort of like why we... But anyway, we... it's kind of something to put out there, and hopefully we can find like-minded individuals through the internet, because we can't find anyone else living in this...
we do know what it's like to have a rare sort of perspective on things.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not a condescending thing, like we're so advanced or we're so special, but it's just different. I mean, it's just like if you were, let's say you were a really uncommon religion, you'd want to find people who are part of your religion and you go to church with them together and stuff like that. I mean, we're part of the church of honest ideas, I think.
Try to be, yeah.
Church of non-bullshit. I'm actually going to make that. I'm going to register it.
Profit.
Tax-exempt entity. Anyway, so yeah, go to the website. There'll be a link for that. And yeah, that's all. Any other...
Not really. Thanks for watching.
Okay, thank you.
Toodles.
Bye.